days used to be that thing that would go around 3. 2,
Yeah, right.
And you heard the real, and you hear the reel going behind it. You know,
The handshake.
Yeah.
We are live and on the air. Welcome to the live broadcast of
Shulchan.
Shulchan.
And then of course they have to pan one of their giant like Abrams tank sized cameras like around the light that had the green light that says live. Whatever.
Right.
Okay. Mishna Berura 271. We're in the laws of Shabbos, and we are in the middle of subsection 11 Yud Aleph. Okay, so we were talking about if somebody only has 1 cup, he should make Kiddush at night, right? The Mechaber has 2 opinions. The first opinion is if you don't is you make Kiddush, right? But then you pour it into a second cup, and then you drink from the first cup, and how much you need. But now you have from the second cup you have it's not pugum, meaning that somebody didn't drink from it. Because, like we learned before, the kiddush should be made on wine that somebody did not drink from, and then he pours this from the second cup back, and that's, we said, of course, assuming that you have a cup of wine for Havdalah, because Havdalah, since you cannot make it on bread, and kiddush you can make on bread. So if you only have for this or for that, you would make for Havdalah. You would leave it for Havdalah. Of course. Right, and now this is, of course, not assuming that you don't have something else for Havdalah that you can make, because even though you cannot make Havdalah on bread, you can make Havdalah on beer, on tea, on Sheikh Medina, which is called, it means like the drink of a country, but it means like an important drink, something that's important. Ask your local rabbi as to what drink is considered important. Okay, and if he has 2 cups only, right? If he only has 2 cups, then and exactly your revius that he's not going to, meaning he has an amount that he's not going to be able to get 3 cups out of it. That the most he's going to get out of it is 2. Then he should choose to make the night kiddush, like we learned before. The night kiddush is more important than the day kiddush, so he should make the night kiddush on the wine, and then he should leave the second 1 cup for Havdalah, because kiddush is for the night more important. Now he doesn't mention here in the last part. Is he talking about that you have challah to make the kiddush on, or even if you don't have the challah to make kiddush on, unless he brought that down in the Mishna Berura, which we didn't get to yet, or something like that.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
Okay, the Mishna Berura brought up a few points. One of them is that when it says you should drink some of it, there is an amount called Melei Lugmav, a cheekful. Again, ask your local rabbi for the exact requirements of that amount. Generally speaking, that's not. It's not. Again, unless you're dealing with this kind of situation where you're so short, or alternatively, when the situation that because of health purposes, right? Somebody doesn't, sugars or wine or whatever, so perhaps in that case also it will become relevant of well, can you drink? How about, can you just drink Melei Lugmav? Would you be able to drink that much? Yeah, that much I could do. Fine. So that's the kind of situations, or in this situation here, where it will become pertinent. This measurement of Melei Lugmav. Okay, now on the Mishna Berura brought down that according to the Magen Avram holds by Tosfos, who holds that rather than how the Mechaber says that you should pour off and then drink from
You're exactly what Rabbi is. Then you can pour off and dilute to make a second cup.
Right, he should pour off in another cup, and he should make sure there's a no. He was talking about something else.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
He was talking about rather than. Let me see. Occasionally, should be
an aleph is
you have to drink specifically from a cup that has a revius. Right.
Right. Got it. Split them into 2 cups. Right.
Right, and therefore he should first pour from the first cup into a second cup. He should make sure that not like pour off the revius into the other cup and leave a tiny bit in the first cup and drink from it, but rather pour a tiny bit, or that making sure to leave a revius in the first cup, and then drinking the amount of the full cheek, and then pouring the wine back to fix it from being pogum, so that it's not wine that was drunk from, because this thing of wine that somebody drunk from, if you add a little bit of new wine from it, it fixes it from that status.
So first pour wine.
That way, in other words, the way that it implies in the Mechaber is that you would take the cup, pour most of it into the second cup, and then drink from it, and now you have the revius that you poured off that you're going to use for tomorrow. Right, like you're finishing the first cup. So what he's saying is pour most of it into the stack. Pour just a tiny bit second cup, leaving a revius, and then drinking the minimum shir, and then you pour back from the second cup into the first cup. So that way, the cup that you drank from had a revius in it, which is a requirement. Then the next one was that you make kiddush on what's remaining. And so, which from his language, it sounds like specifically from this cup itself. However, we said before, hang on a second, doesn't the cup have to be full? Like we learned before, it needs to be a full cup. So in this case, obviously you don't have a full cup now because you poured some off, you drank a little bit from it, you poured it back, whatever it is, but it's not a full cup, even if it's a revius. So he says this is just the idea. This is the ideal way of doing the mitzvah. That meaning, if you do have a smaller cup and you can then pour it into a smaller cup, that will have so this way your revius will also be a cup that's full. This is definitely better. However, if you don't have a smaller cup, then you still fulfill the obligation, even though the cup is not full. So ideally, the cup needs to be full. But in this situation where you're tight and you don't have another option, you can still make kiddush on it as long as there is a revius in the cup. Revius b'tzimtzum, he said, right? Like if you have, let me see where that was from. That was from Okay, so then we were talking about the Mechaber that he said that if you had exactly a revius and then overnight a little bit schwitzed off of it, a little bit evaporated. So you can add a little bit of water, right? There's an amount of water you can add so long as it doesn't. You can't dilute it too much because then it loses its bracha of agafen. But you can, but if you add a little bit of water just to fill, if you have, and like Yehuda Leib mentioned yesterday, that nowadays you have to be careful with that. It's not so simple because there are grape juice products, mostly grape juice products that it says that it's agafen on it, and it is agafen. However, it's already been diluted. And since it's already been diluted, now you're going to go dilute it further. You have to understand to what degree it was diluted already. So he said, if you have a revius b'tzimtzum, meaning just exactly a revius, lav davka, right? Not simply that, but also But he's just saying, it means that, because remember, you have to have a revius in order to do both, two kiddushim on it. You have to have a revius plus a cheekful, because you're required to drink a cheekful. So meaning if you have the minimum amount you would need to do this is one revius plus one cheekful. So he says, not necessarily if you have just a revius, but even if you have more than a revius, but you don't have a full revius but a cheekful now. So same thing that you would add this, so then you would add the water. And in that Mishnah Berura, he warns, obviously making sure that the rules are followed, that to retain the Hakohen nature of this cup. And now I believe we were at, Mishnah, which we by Nundalid. Is that what we have?
Yeah.
Nundalid, perfect.
Yeah, which by the way, you see, the end of Mishnah Berura Nun Gimel brings up the point I brought up to make sure, basically with the wine that's chazik, it's strong enough.
Yes. Fine. So v'hainu davta. So he's saying this is specifically when he has another cup available for Havdalah.
Which, by the way, so when talking about pouring off the wine into a cup that's full, to having a small cup that we mentioned yesterday about shot glasses, I just wanted to show. I actually have this shot glass here that has measurements, so you can't really see. Focus is off. So
what's the highest measurement?
So this measurement, and you can Google this, you can also see that your average shot glass of this size is between 1.25 and 1.5 ounces, which we said the minimum revius was 2.9 or something. I think it was no, that was already higher. 2.7, 2.9. I think 2.5 or maybe even 2.3. Okay. Like the minimum. So basically, you'll see there's a line that even says there's an ounce size, 1 ounce. Yeah. You basically want 2 shot glasses worth. So if you're going to pour it off, so you either have a shot glass that's a little bit bigger, but if you want to measure it out to make sure you have it, and you don't have a measuring cup that has ounces, right. If you have a standard shot glass, you want to be able to fill 2 of them. It doesn't even have to be all the way to the lip, but probably.
How much is one? One would be 1.5 ounces?
About 1.5 or 1.25. And so that's what I'm saying. If you go just about to the lip twice, you'll get at least 2.5, if not.
Right, so you'll have at least your minimal, and then if you want to go and if you want to go by if you want to go by our revius, so you would do 3 of them, you would be good.
Right. But again, we're talking about a case where the guy barely has any wine, especially if we're talking about a case where he's not sure if he even has enough to make for Shabbos day, but only for Havdalah. So here's your option. But just in general, just a little hack. Yeah, you can use your standard size shot glass. But if it's a deviated, a different size shot glass, then who knows? You gotta figure that out how. But at least,
right.
Measure it out.
Which, by the way, it's a funny thing because people make sometimes a big deal about kiddush on the day on mashke, right? As if it's a super macho thing, right? But for the most part, the people who tend to make kiddush on mashke, they also tend to have a glass of the size that's the revius, and when you're doing Leib case of that, you're Sachakel talking 2 ounces. You're talking a double basically. It's not.
It's a problem. Yeah. Maybe it's Leib Lugma because it's Leib Lugma, as we saw later. The definition is most of a revius, ruba is a revius. So maybe that's Leib Lugma, but still, it's problematic. Yeah, I will say this is something personally. Like when people give me a hard time, I'm like, no, I make kiddush on Hakohen. Now you want me to also drink a cup of mashke? Fine, fill me up a cup of mashke. I'll drink it right after. But kiddush, I'd rather make on Berura Hakohen. Just based on what I've learned and for what I've done.
Or alternatively, just drink have a cup that's slightly bigger. And by the way, even then, so Sachakel 3.5 ounces, so it's 3 shots. It's not the
unless it's Simcha Stara.
Even if you're under 40, you still have 1 shot left after this.
Unless it's Simcha Stara, you make.
Okay, let's tell you that's
what I'm saying.
That will keep for Hilchos Simchas.
No, wait a minute.
But that's what I'm saying. I personally, even by Simchas Torah, I'd rather make Hakohen, Berura Hakohen, by Kiddush, right after I'll drink a full cup.
Wow.
But
yeah,
and I'll drink a full cup, not a shot glass, not a Kiddush cup. I mean, but no, that's just me personally. You got to speak to your own mashpia about this.
Well, okay.
Anyway, right. Anyway, before you decide on those matters, speak to your own mashpia and or your own wife, and and come to a proper decision. Anyway,
so basically, speak either to your mashpia or Zain Makabel, and
right, one or the other, or both. Have both bases covered.
Let them, yeah, exactly. All right, $1.
And if you didn't mention it to your wife, mention that to your mashpia first before you ask the question.
Right, that you didn't mention it to your wife. I didn't tell my wife, but
you're right. Anyways, the Hainu Dafka, and this is specifically when you have a cup of Havdalah left. So what's that talking about? Koi adela el shekosav kisheyesh le case echad mekalish beibalayla. He's going back to, if you only have one cup, you make the kiddush at night. Meaning he's going back to everything, the whole thing. He's going back to, if you only, even if you only have one cup, he's not talking about where you have two cups, or where you have all these other, where you have two cups, right? What would you do? So, like later he says, you would leave one for the night, one for Havdalah. He's going all the way back to, even if only you have one cup, you would leave that for Havdalah rather than the Kiddush by night, even. And it implies that this is specifically, etc. Which that's not like the Mishna Berura, no?
This is only
Vashmeinon. So he's saying Vashmeinon. So he's telling us the Hainu Dafka v'chulu, and this is specifically etc. When you have Havdalah. Fine, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what.
Right. I mean, in here, Ashminon is he's letting you know. He's saying here up, you got to make sure that you have Havdalah.
This paragraph, this thing is talking about. What we talked about was
back to the Reisha, that even if you only have one cup, you would, and so how you would do that, or whatever it is, meaning he's saying how you stretch the one cup to drink on. Anyway, yeah. By the way, it's interesting because according to Malay Lugmov, being Leib place. Right, being the majority of Revius, that means when he's talking about if you only had a Revius b'timtzum, now you understand why he brought down before the lav dafka, not only a kiddush, but he's talking about Revius plus lugmov, which means basically like a Revius and a half and a little bit. That's what he was talking about. So there's a big nafkamina there. Shi'anichenu lahavdola. So better if you only have one, you should leave it for Havdalah. The Yesh Eimrim, and some say the Kiddush Halayla Adif Mi Havdalah. There's an opinion that the Kiddush of the night is more important than Havdalah, not like what the Mechaber is saying. And even, and this is where we get to what we spoke about before, even according to Shulchan Aruch, Yesh Lo Yisheicher Havdalah Mutav Lekadish Al Hayayin. That, and even according to the Shulchan Aruch is saying better leave the wine for Havdalah. That is, like we said before, specifically when you don't have something else that you're able to make Havdalah on, like say beer. If you have beer, right, then even the Shulchan Aruch would say make the Kiddush of the night and leave the beer. Because his whole reason you have to leave it for Havdalah is because you can make Kiddush on bread, but Havdalah you can't make on bread, so you're not going to have what to make Havdalah on. In the case that you do have a viable alternative to Havdalah, you use your viable alternative and you'll use the wine for Kiddush by night, and then even for Kiddush by day, and then you use your beer for Havdalah. Because everybody agrees that you can make Havdalah on other drinks. And in this case, usually sheikha means like liquor. Can make shikos with siman samavav, like it says in 296.
Yeah, they translate it as beer, not even liquor, not even a hard alcohol, even something as light as beer.
Yeah, in other words, a hard drink or whatever.
No, but I'm saying it's not even necessarily a hard alcohol. It could be beer. Like here, they translate just as beer. They don't even translate it.
Beer is a hard drink also. Like there's like hard seltzer and hard beer and
right. It's alcoholic, but it's I guess what I'm saying is it's not like you have to be. Oh, it has to be like Scotch or
right. Not on whiskey. It could be yeah. And the truth is, as we know, it could be even on Sheikh Medina, which is not necessarily alcoholic at all. Things like tea or whatever, which are not at all alcoholic.
Right.
Like he says in 296 subsection 2, the kiddush ashichra, but kiddush on sheikher, harbe paiskim eisim. Many paiskim they prohibit this. And even on bread, machmir Rabbeinu Tam is machmir that you shouldn't make kiddush even on bread. And therefore, even by the daytime meal, we said before that if you have wine, only 2 cups, you would use it for the night, and then for the day, if you have an alternative for Havdalah, then you wouldn't have to. Then you wouldn't save it. However, that they have a minhag to make kiddush in the shul, the gam lahavdal, and also to make Havdalah in shul. Was there Havdalah? So there, Havdalah becomes more important. Because making kiddush in shul is just a minhag. Whereas when you're making Havdalah in shul to fulfill the obligation of the public, right, then it becomes more important. So all this we were talking about is at home, but in shul, Havdalah is more important. Meshikos of Siman Reish Samuktas, like it is in 269, Magen Avram and other Achreinim, right? So you should know that in shul it's different. Havdalah is if you're in shul, right? And in the shul, let's say you're in a place there's no eruv, you can't carry to the shul. Whatever is in the shul, that's what you're gonna have. And you only have 1 cup of wine, right? So since you only have 1 cup of wine, what would you do? In shul you would save it for Havdalah. And not make kiddush. That's only a minhag, because I don't know if the people who make it on wine or shul, I don't imagine that they would that if there's no wine they would make it on bread in the shul. I think if you don't have wine, you just wouldn't do it.
What people would say, just go home.
Yeah, they go home and make what's it called? Because you
I guess it probably depends. It depends on if you're talking about a place that.
Right. I mean, that's in a prior sift, which we didn't get. It's in a prior sift, which we didn't get.
I'm saying is if it's a community that has people that wouldn't otherwise hear it.
Okay, so then it becomes that really is a different story. Because what he's talking about is when you're doing it out just a minhag, right? But in this case. If you're actually meaning that he's going with the assumption that you are going to then go and everybody's going to then go home and make kiddush. So if there's people who won't otherwise have kiddush, then it becomes a different story, I would imagine. Because now it's just like because now it's become just like Havdalah. There's people fulfilling their obligation through it. So then you would go. Right. So then you would go back to your original equation.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I that makes sense to me. I don't have any knowledge of where such discussion is, but just based on the reasoning, that would make sense. Why? So the Kiddush Halayla Adif. Right. So if you only have wine, 2 cups of wine, he said you would do the Havdalah and Kiddush by night. That Kiddush by night is more important than the Kiddush by the day. Like we said before, in this siman in subsection 3, the Ayin Sham Mishna Berura and see what was there in the Mishna Berura, in what we said in Mishna Berura 8. That the Magen Avram brings in the name of Shiari Knesset Gedelah, of the remnants of the great assembly, the Tev Lekadish al Case Gadol, that it is good to make Kiddush on a big cup, Sheishayir Me'esi HaKais Lekiddush Hayom Ol Havdalah, that there should remain from that cup for the Kiddush of the day and by the night, v'hainu, meaning, that he should fix it each time from being pagum, right? So meaning you make Kiddush by the night on it, right? And then what remains in the cup of Kiddush, you would then fill it back up for the Kiddush by day. And then what remained in that cup, you would fill it up again by Havdalah. Why does he need a big cup in this case? Why does he need such a big cup? I'm not understanding. It's not like you're making all two Kiddushin and Havdalah on the same cup. You're refilling it, so it shouldn't be problems. So who cares if it's a big cup? Anyways, v'yikach b'shachris v'avdola kiskata me'akedim. This is why. That by shachris and avdola he takes a smaller cup than the original cup, so that it should be full.
What?
Okay, so what you do is like this: you take a big cup, right?
You make that Friday night Kiddush on a large cup.
You make a large cup, right? And then you drink, right?
And you leave over wine for the next day.
Right. And you leave over wine for the next day. But what he's saying is you're leaving over basically enough for even like a revius for the next day or something like this. And it would be mashma, you're leaving 2 revius in there. One for the night and one for the day. One for the night and one for Havdalah. And then you just pour a little bit, so it shouldn't be pugum.
Unpugum.
And then you pour it into a smaller cup that's maybe say like just a revius.
And pour out into that, so it's a full
cup. And again, the same thing into a smaller cup for Havdalah, which is funny because then it would have to be a very big cup. The cup would have to be 4 revius in.
3 revius in.
No, 4 because how are you going to drink Reiv Kais? If you're going to drink Reiv Kais and still have 2 revius in left, you have to have had 4 revius in the first place.
Well, no. So you don't have to. We haven't gotten to the point of the whole Reiv Kais thing.
So he's assuming Malay.
I'm going to do the Reiv Kais, but again, yeah, you're in a bind. All you need is to have a revius, Malay Lugma, which is Rubai Shal revius. So 3 revius in. Sorry, I'll do it the other way. So
not even. He needs 2 revius and a half.
So you drink 1 revius for Friday night, 1 revius Shabbos day, and then 1 revius left.
Not even 1 revius. So let's say Malay Lugma. So you have
right. So it's majority 3/4. I'm just rounding up.
You would need 2 3/4 of a revius. Okay, so which is not that big of a cup really, if you think of it.
Well, no, it's like you said. It's actually 2.5 because it's 3 3/4. So 3 3/4 only equals 2.5. 75 plus 75 plus 75 equals 250.
Fine.
Yeah.
I'm still not understanding why you would have to do it that way, because if you're already filling it from being pagan, so why don't you just use When you have the same.
I don't understand. Why not pour lechatchila just to make sure
have the same cup. Make kiddush by night. You have this much left in it. You know, who cares? You have to anyways add so it's not pagim. Why not just?
Yeah, what I'm saying is, for example, I'd be so nervous. I wouldn't want to use a big cup because I might drink too much. So I'd want to like pre-apportion to make sure I have it saved. Pour it out lechatchila, leave it in the kitchen. The other 2 cups full of wine, so that way I make sure I don't drink too much. I had enough.
Oh, you mean you would make kiddush, then portion out the things, and then drink from the first cup?
Yeah.
Okay, perhaps, but in either case.
Or even lechatchila.
Right. No, I'm not understanding why you even need such a big cup. Take your cup. You anyways have to add wine to it in order to fill the gimba. So if you're adding a little bit or a lot, whatever, who cares how much you're adding already?
Right.
Anyway.
Maybe because imagine you can't add too much.
Yeah.
It has to be bottom right.
In either case, the Eliyah Rabba did not questions this minhag.
And the Maimer Mordechai.
He refuses it. So not only he questions it, he refuses it. Because of the Tevyesed Latzis Kiminogenu, and he wrote it's better just to do like we do, which in either case, I've never seen this done before. So I'm guessing that everybody accepts this Tevyesed Latzis Kiminogenu, which is not to do like this.
Wait, I don't understand. What is he saying? But we're not talking. Of course, lechatchila use fresh wine. Talking about you don't have any other option.
No. No, he's not. No. He's talking about. He's bringing up an aside. He's bringing up something completely different. Since he was bringing up the idea of kiddush of night is more important than kiddush by the day, so in connection with that, he's bringing a minhag. Let's say you have plenty of wine. Or maybe not. Maybe you're right. But it doesn't sound like it, because when you have... So maybe he doesn't mean such a big cup.
I'm just going to read through here.
You would have to have a mitaki in it.
So I guess what's happening.
You're short on wine.
The Mechaber says that if you have one, you only have 2 cups worth. So you should say kiddush by night, and then Havdalah. Do not use the cup for daytime kiddush. Use the first cup for nighttime kiddush, because nighttime kiddush makes preference over, right? So the Magen Avraham, Mishnah Berurah brings the Magen Avraham saying, well, actually, you don't have to skip the daytime kiddush. Here's what you do.
No, but it wouldn't work, because all the cases where you skip the daytime kiddush is when you didn't have enough for the full cheek for all 3 anyway. So how could you do this thing of Shiai Knesset Sagdaila? That's what leads me to believe that he's talking about something separate. Because also look at his looking is Tevle Kaddish al Case Gadol. It's meaning I think he just found that.
See, that's what I'm trying to say, is that's why he's saying this whole big cup thing. He's saying, let me tell you how to do it in a way that you can still have wine to make kiddush on wine for lunch. Shabbos day. Here's how you do it. You take a big cup, and then in the parentheses, that's the whole thing. This means you would have to add wine to the cup each time you drink from it to unpagum it. So technically, you only have 2 revius in, but
right. But if you add 2 revius in, you could do another. In other words, all these other options still work as long as you have a full cheek for each one. Because the way he's talking here means you have.
So that's what the Magen Avraham is saying. Bichlal, you can just keep unpaguming stuff. Just take a drink, it makes a pogum, but then you unpogum it, and now there's another revius.
But we already accomplished that. We already accomplished that in based on what the Magen Avram said.
I'm saying I'm talking about the Magen Avram.
That you pour a little bit off into another cup, make kiddush and unpugum it. So why is he saying anything different than the Magen Avram then? He's not saying anything different then.
What are you talking about? We're talking about the Magen Avram. What do you mean?
Because in other words, what we were talking about is you don't have enough for three reviusin.
Yeah.
Meaning not even 3 reviusin, for 2 full cheeks and a revius.
You have 2 reviusin. It says 2 precise reviusin. After dilution.
Okay, so he has 2 reviusin.
You've diluted the wine. They basically, you have exactly revius. Each.
Yeah. So you
use 1 for Abdallah, and the Mechaber says use 1 for Abdallah and one for Friday night. You have to skip Shabbos day. Sorry, Charlie, there's not enough wine. The Magen Avram is saying, guess what? There's actually a way you can do it by just diluting it again. If it's Rubai Kukula, you diluted it. So take a drink. Okay, it's pagum. But now add more again, dilute it again, and now you just unpagummed it and brought it back up to another revius. You now have magic. You just made more wine. You turned water into wine, as Yidden have been doing for 2,000 years.
Yeah, but according to the Tosfos the Magen Avram brings, you've done the same thing. You take your cup.
What Tosfos the Magen Avram brings? What are you talking about?
Look in what do you call it? In Nun Aleph. The Kodesh L'Chayv is at the right. What you do? So you would pour a little bit from the cup into the second cup, and you making sure you have a revius, and then you take a taste from the other one, just barely the Mulay Lugmov, and then you pour the other one back, so it's not pagum. And if you have a smaller cup, you should use a smaller cup.
What's the problem?
Same thing again, but in other words, the assumption of the Havdalah thing is that you don't have enough to do that twice. Doing that twice, it would sound like exactly what he's talking about here.
Yeah, so that's what we're saying. The Magen Avram is arguing on the Mechaber. He holds differently. You don't have to say for Abdallah.
Fine, but I'm saying what's this? Oh, so it's the same thing basically then.
Magen Avram bring up his opinion again, but instead of going by Tais, he's saying specifically for this thing because by that one we're not talking about
that was assuming that you have on what to make Havdalah before. Now he's extending that theory to even if you don't have enough to make Havdalah on something else, but you have enough to do it this way, you can do it this way.
Right, but it's also, hold on, but I have to bring up, that's also not talking about diluted wine. It's another difference. The Tosfos the Magen Avram brings, in that case, you're talking about from a second cup. No, Aleph, that's not diluted wine. That's regular wine.
In Nun Aleph, we're talking about regular wine, not diluted wine, correct?
Yeah, here we're talking about it's already diluted. Chaber says it's 2 cups, they're exact revius after dilution. So the Magen Avram is saying, okay, even when it's after maziga, even after dilution, guess what? You could still do the trick we talked about before, like Tosfos.
Right. In other words, you can do both. You can combine them and
combine things, but basically, to basically unpugum. Like I said, turning water into wine. The Christians weren't so far off about Jews turning water into wine.
He was just a regular Jew, man.
Every Jew can do it.
Right. We poured water, goes, it's wine now.
But the Maimonides are like, I don't like it, man. Fine. Diluted wine, that's why Badafka, it's saying, no, we use fresh wine. Basically, our practice.
Now, as for what we would actually do in such a situation, first of all, try to make sure you have wine. Even though, by the way, I've actually seen situations like this. You know, like you brought up yesterday, like scrounging around for a Kiddush in 770 and trying to figure out what the best way is to do it. Like these things are, you know, and the smush the cup to make it smaller trick and etc. Like
I can't.
So these at least in Chabad, these scenarios are not so far fetched. That's even now. Now you go back to Russia, where we're just getting a hold of some wine or whatever it is. You can imagine. It might have been even more common back then.
Siberia. What about in the war and the camps, etc. In the ghettos?
Now, as far as what to do, you'll ask your local Rav, or we'll see. Hopefully, the Alter Rebbe will weigh in on when we get to that. After we're done with the Simon, we go do the Alter Rebbe. Hopefully, the Alter Rebbe will weigh in on that.
But our practices,
Yud base in the Mechaber 12. Achar shekidish ala case natil yodov. Now. By the way, now he's going back to regular situation. He finished
Kiddush. Now we're making Amaitzi.
Right. We finished Kiddush in whether a normal Kiddush or a weird Kiddush or a watered down Kiddush, whatever we had to do. And now we come to Amaitzi time. So after he makes Kiddush on the cup, Neitil Yadav Mevarech on Tilas Yadayim. He washes his hands and he blesses on Tilas Yadayim. Right? Baruch Atah Shek Kiddushanu on Tilas Yadayim. V'imnat al Yadav Kedim Kiddush. If he washed his hands before Kiddush, Gaili Daite Dritach Avivale. He revealed his mind, meaning he revealed his feelings. That the bread is more beloved to him, right? He cheated on the challah or on the grape juice or something, and at that point he should not make kiddush on the wine, but rather he should make the kiddush on the bread at that point, because he already washed hands, making the statement of the importance of the challah, basically. So even though we started back at the regular situation, we're coming back to another interesting situation. So and not after, right? So he washes his hands and says until Yadayim after Kiddush, not before Kiddush. Why? Kiddush layafsik ba Kiddush bein Tilas Yadayim lamaitzi. Because otherwise, when you make Kiddush, you're making a hefsik, you're making interruption. You're not allowed to have an interruption between washing your hands and saying the bracha and sitting down and making hamaitzi by the challah. You're not to make an interruption. That's why we have all the different versions of people. Oh no, all the people trying to which is the way that Jews they try to hint without making an interruption because they're too lazy to go and get up and get the salt themselves to dip the bread in. So instead, the whole circus goes on about. You mean the salt or the knife or at least just get out, get the salt and anyhow. So, but if you make kiddush in there, that's for sure an interruption. So that's why you wash hands after, and you would not wash hands before kiddush. Aval b'nei beis shein mekadshim ba'atzman al yitzim mishmias ba'bayis yuchlu litol yidei kedim. However, the children of the house, meaning the other people of the house besides for the patriarch, if since they are listening to, if they're not making kiddush themselves and they're going to be listening to his kiddush, they technically can wash their hands before kiddush. And what would be would the answer amen, or they would just have in mind that they're being yetzer? Because wouldn't Amen be he doesn't touch upon that here.
So I wonder if Amen isn't a hefsek because it's part of what you're doing. It's not.
But then Kiddush is also part of what you're doing. In other words, Adrabah, the Amen belongs to the Kiddush, not to the Amaitzi. The Amen is part of what the Kiddush is doing.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know. I'm just bringing that up because it's just like a klutz kasha that comes up. Derivta v'chulu, right? That he's revealing his feelings or his thoughts. He's revealing his thoughts that the bread is more important. And v'davka, meaning if he washes his hands and makes right, he washes his hands and he made the bracha until Yadayim.
Yes.
V'davka hocha deika gam ken chash hefsek. Shemekadish al hayayin achar hanatila. And this is specifically when there is when we have what to worry about, meaning when we have to worry about the interruption,
right,
of the of making kiddush after that, like it's written in Nun Ches, like we just said above in the last Mishna Berura.
Right.
However, if he did not, so he's explaining why that because you would think the fact that the Mechaber says that he just revealed his thoughts that he likes bread more than wine, right? So therefore he has to now make it on the bread. So the Mishnah Berura is saying it's only when he revealed those thoughts. If he had those thoughts but didn't reveal them by washing his hands, even if he taka likes bread more than wine, he would still make the kiddush on wine and not on bread. It's only that he revealed those thoughts. Oh, bread.
I love you.
Yeah. Even though the bread maybe taka he likes more than wine, however, it's only if he washed his hands revealing those thoughts that he now would not make a hefsek. In other words, what he's saying basically is that the actual reason is to not make a hefsek. The actual reason is not the fact that he likes the bread more. Because if the reasoning is that you like the bread more, then who cares that you washed? Who cares you washed your hands? You didn't wash your hands. And but the real thing comes down to is that is not making a hefsek once you wash your hands. When the comment see what the Ramah writes later in 272 subsection 9. Chavivole is more beloved to him. Why? Because why did he wash his hands? He washed his hands because he's hungry and he wants to hurry to eat the bread. He didn't want to waste any time. Ramah, and there is another opinion that he should actually wash his hands before kiddush, and to make kiddush on wine. That seems to be the Rosh and the Mordechai and the Rashba. And so is the minog in these places, which obviously it's not. Whatever those places are in these places, because our minhag is not like the Ramah. And you should not change this besides for the night of Pesach, right? Because as we know by the Seder, right, there's a very specific order. Kaddish comes first. Then Urchatz, washing, but even not washing is only for the vegetable, etc., etc. And you don't make a maitzi until it comes time for maitzi matzah, by which time you already drank 2 cups of wine. But he says that's different. On Pesach is different. Like will be explained in, or like was explained in 173, that there's a certain order for Pesach how you do it. But he says, but otherwise you actually the minhag is to wash first and then make kiddush on the cup. The Mishna Berura Samach Aleph. V'yesh eimrim l'chatchila v'chulo. The Svira lohu de'ein kiddush mikri hafsik. Kevin should say that he holds that kiddush is not considered an interruption. Why? Because it is from the needs of the Suda. It has to, like you said before, it has to do with what you're doing. And therefore he should make kiddush on the wine. They use the case and drink the cup. And immediately afterwards, being that he already washed, now he wash first, right? Make al tilsidayim. Then make kiddush, and then immediately make hamaitzi, and then break the bread. The kivon, the einai hafsik, and since it's not an interruption, the Rama holds that we should do that in the first place. Mishom, because the she'ein lo yain and mekadosh alapas, because in a case where he doesn't have wine and he's making kiddush on the bread. So in such a situation, automatically you would have to wash your hands before kiddush, because if you're making kiddush on the bread, how are you going to eat the bread if you didn't wash hands? And therefore so therefore the Rama hold that you should do this all the time, so you're always washing before kiddush, whether the kiddush is on bread or the kiddush is on wine. The limbs like it's a case bechamin achar until kid b'maitzi. But to pour the cup, what you talking about here? Pour the cup into the food.
So diluting the cup with hot water.
Like let's say he wanted it to be warmer.
Yes.
So he's diluting it. So this he for sure should not do after washing hands before Hamaitzi. Meaning the kid basically even that Amma would hold, don't do that. Came with the didactic yafish like darke. So yechaser v'shlo yaser have yeschad, because then you'll be removing your mind from it. Meaning even according to the Rama, kiddush means kiddush, only kiddush, and not that now by extension anything I want to do. Let's say, for example, I want to.
But even this is that's not what he's saying. He's saying even for kiddush.
Yeah.
Even if I'm diluting it for kiddush, but dilution it takes brain power. It takes to make sure to dilute it properly, right, to make sure it's not too much or too little. It's too much. It's a mental distraction.
Right. So now you've lost your concentration.
Even if it's for kiddush.
Right.
You're gonna think, what? It's for my kiddush. I'm diluting it for kiddush.
Right. So he's saying
you're using your brain too much.
Only kiddush itself you can do. You can't now by extension start making all kinds of kiddush preparations after washing hands before Hamaitzi.
No, what's interesting is even though even these calculations are for the purpose of kiddush, I'm diluting my wine for my kiddush to make a kais, maybe to make it a full cup or whatever. Let's say, right, like the methods we talked about before.
Yeah. So
it's for kiddush. It's not for my drink later or for benching or something like that.
Yeah, but this would imply that it's not. In other words, if you're being lazy because you don't have a choice, because because you're a little bit short, you filled the cup. Oh, it's a little bit short. It implies here, because bechamin would imply something different. It would imply that he wants it to be a little bit warmer.
Yeah, why the cham? Okay, so yeah, maybe
meaning that's not absolutely necessary to your kosher kiddush. You're doing something extra to make your kiddush more pleasant for you now. That's how it sounds like. Otherwise, why would he bring down dafka?
Yeah, what's the chana thing? Yeah, I don't.
I think what he's talking about is, for example, which is kind of funny. Well, maybe he was British. You know, like British people like warm beer.
Right. Right.
So it's funny to us, where we're in the age of refrigeration, etc. We've gotten used to the idea of cold drinks. You drink wine. Depending on the wine, either it's going to be room temperature, right? And I know people who drink their dry wine also chilled. They don't like lukewarm drinks. This is the other way around. In Mistama in that time and place, it was people didn't like they didn't like it so cold. So it's like he's taking the chill off of it or something.
Interesting, could be. Yeah,
Putting a little bit of hot water into it.
If I had more time, I'd look. Maybe the Berura has something, but yeah, I got to run actually. But I'm moving to my phone so that I can take it with me.
Yeah, and I think we're almost anyways by 13.
And maybe you can look in the Berura. Maybe he has comments on it.
Yeah. We'll look over there. Okay, so it's not over there. Let me see if the Be'er Hatev doesn't have anything.
Thank you, guys. You did a great job today.
Yeah, we're not quite done yet. We're almost done.
Hey, I got a quick question. So you said you can't make after when Shabbos is over.
Havdalah.
Havdalah, right? You can't make Havdalah. It's called a brain fart, Mendel. You can't make Havdalah on Hamotzi, you said, right?
Correct.
Now, is the reason because in case you decide to have a malava malka, because you got to make Hamotzi for a malava malka?
No, it's not out of a concern of any type. In other words, in the first place, bread you can't make Havdalah on bread. You can make the kiddush has to do with establishing a meal,
right?
So that's why bread has to do with bread. Havdalah has nothing to do with establishing a meal.
It's just not connected. That's all.
Gotcha. Yeah, it wouldn't even make sense to see someone make Havdalah on bread.
Because since they don't do it, so you don't see it. So
that'd be like using flashlights instead of candles.
Yeah,
it can't fill that purpose.
I just thought of that.
Yeah, it's a very interesting and good point you bring up.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you.
Really? Come on, really?
Yeah, you.
You guys are the real brains.
So he says, and this the Mishna goes on the Ramah says that this is the minhag in these, and we shouldn't change from it, right? Meaning that the minhag is that you wash first, make kiddush, and then say hamaitzi. The Kama Achreinim Pasku and various Achreinim wrote, Itfei Odif Lechatchilu Lekadish Al Yayim Kedem. That no, it's better not to go by the Ramah here and to do it like the Mechaber says. That first you make kiddush and then you wash hands. Because this way, why? Because like this, you are fulfilling your obligation according to all opinions. That even according to the Ramah, that holds that it's not an interference to make kiddush in between. If you did it like the mechaber, your kiddush, your everything was still good. However, if you do it the other way around, if you listen to the Ramah and you wash first and then you make kiddush and then you make hamaitzi, you have a problem of interference according to the first opinion. So it's more problematic to do it like the Ramah, whereas if you do it even according to the Ramah, if you do it the Mechaber's way, you're still okay. And therefore, it's better to do it like the Mechaber, because like this you avoid problems according to all opinions. So meaning that, so what should you do? You should first make Kiddush, and only then wash, and then make Hamaitzi. And in many places, or in some places, they did do that. This miu kvar, not al yod of kedim kiddush, right? Meaning that nowadays the minhag basically has become like these achreinim said, that you make kiddush and then you. However, it's worthwhile knowing this opinion of the Ramah, because if you washed your hands before kiddush, right? Unlike what the Mechaber says, and the Mechaber says that if you washed before kiddush, then you are no longer allowed to make the kiddush on the wine, and you have to make the kiddush on the bread. So it's worthwhile to know that if you by accident washed first, meaning in the first place, you should go like the Mechaber. Make kiddush, wash, bread. However, if you made a mistake and you did wash first, you have the Ramah to rely on, and you can still make kiddush. You don't have to do like the Mechaber and now make your kiddush on bread because you washed first by accident. But rather, in that case, go ahead and rely on the Ramah, and you can still make kiddush and then make hametzi. Beleil Pesach mishum the oz mafsikin harbe amiras hagadol asuda. So why is it different by Pesach? Because by Pesach you make a lot of interruptions, because you're saying the Haggadah by the meal. Kosa b'derech chayim, and it's right b'derech chayim. Imekadosh al hapas la'itzik amamshemim tzrichim hashem mishikavnu. It says gam b'berachas hametzi, that if you make kiddush on bread and you have in mind to fulfill the obligations of those listening to you, those who are listening to you must also have in mind to be yaitze with your bracha of hametzi. Because if they did not have in mind to fulfill their obligation through your bracha on bread, they're only thinking about the kiddush part. And then they want to make their own hametzi. But when they're eating, they're doing a prohibition. The Mahapchin say that they're flipping around the order of Kiddush. Right? Because the order of Kiddush is first you make the bracha on the food item, right? And then you say Kiddush Hayim, Mekadesh Shabbos. Similarly, when you make it on bread, you would say Hametzi Lechem in Haaretz, and following that, you would say Kiddush Hayim, Mekadesh Shabbos. So if somebody's going to be yaitze from your kiddush part, but he's not going to be yaitze from your making the hametzi part, because he wants to make his own hametzi later. Again, this is talking when you're making kiddush on bread. Then what's going to happen? He's flipping around the order of the order, because he's starting with the kiddush and then doing hametzi. Rather, if somebody is listening to your kiddush on bread and fulfilling his obligation, he has to have in mind to be yaitze from your bracha hametzi also, and also from your kiddush. But he can't only have in mind your kiddush. This is why they need to be careful to wash hands when the balabayis, when the patriarch washes his hands. The man of the house, when he washes his hands for Kiddush, they should be careful to wash hands with him. That if not, they're not going to be intending to fulfill their obligation through his bracha hametzi. The end of Seif 12.
Hey, can you repeat that last line? Everyone has to wash at the same time?
Well, meaning he's talking about specifically, I mean, I guess by extension, this can be any time that you're being yaitze with. In other words, what he's talking about is he's talking about the situation where the balabais is making kiddush on bread. So you have to wash with him since you're being yaitze, because if not, you're not being yaitze, and then you enter into this problem that you can't be yaitze from his kiddush hayom, but not from his hametzi. You have to also be yaitze from his hametzi if you want to be yaitze from his kiddush hayom. But by extension, I would say, yeah. In other words, this would apply anytime if you want to be yaitze. Now, by the way, by us we don't necessarily have such a problem, because our minhag in Chabad is that you're not yaitze from the bracha hametzi. Rather, each person, when you get your piece of bread, you make your own bracha hametzi. So
you're supposed to say their own hametzi, yeah.
Yeah. So in this case, it would be it's not such a problem. But however, if you're being yaitze from the balabais hamaitzi, then yeah, probably the same would apply. Is that you have to make sure to wash. Meaning it doesn't mean the same instant, but at the same time, in the same period where he's washing his hands between kiddush and hamaitzi, everybody should wash their hands, because otherwise, how are you being yaitze from his bracha? Now, by the way, the simple thing is, if you messed up, if you were planning on doing that and you messed up and you didn't wash hands and he said hamaitzi, it's very simple. Just go and wash hands and make hamaitzi. Not a problem.
But you're still yaitze kiddush.
No, that's a difference. I'm talking about in a regular situation, like where you were going to be.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Yeah, making kiddush. No, now you have a problem. Right? You weren't
If you were snoozing, you were busy, making the salad or whatever, doing something else, and everyone already washed, and then he starts Mashishi. You're not yet kiddush. You have to do kiddush again.
Well, you're fine there until he gets to Savim Maranan. Baruch Atah Hashem.
I mean, if he makes kiddush, you're not yaitze because you didn't wash.
Yeah, if he's making it on bread, you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, once he gets to the point where he made hamaitzi lechem na'aretz and you didn't wash, then he's going to say the bracha mekadesh Shabbos. You can't be mekadesh Shabbos.
What are you saying? He can't go wash in the middle of Yom HaShishi.
Why? Technically, by the way, the Yom HaShishi is not the part that's yaitzi from you. If you didn't hear Yom HaShishi at all and you walked in by stuff and heard mekadesh Shabbos, you yaitze.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. As a matter of fact, like you said before, if you have to do tashlumin and you have to make up for the night kiddush in a day,
right?
You wouldn't even say Yom HaShishi. Yom HaShishi is even. I'm not saying it's not important, because to the point where there's a whole thing. Should you stand by it? Should you sit by it? Is it possibly giving testimony? I mean, you're giving not only giving testimony, which you're standing in front of a court giving testimony, which is heavy duty. But you're giving testimony on the Eibishter. It's really heavy duty. So I'm not. We are not poo-pooing Yom HaShishi chas v'shalom. However, in terms of your obligation to your kiddush, listen. What happens? You're in a rush and something you're running. You didn't. It took you longer to walk than you thought. They already figured you're not coming, and all of a sudden you pop in the door and he says, "Savir maran bar baby agafen." Shabbos. Okay, you were yaitze kiddush.
Right. So if the guy can wash quickly while the guy's saying Yom HaShishi, fine. But basically, I say if he doesn't wash in time for the guys to say Savim Maranan, but how much you lechem na'aretz, yeah, he has to then go. Then
you have a problem. You need to find a different kiddush, because otherwise you're being over on an isser. He says, because you're changing the order of kiddush, and you're actually being what's it called, transgressing a prohibition. So in that case, you'd have to. And not only that, like we know that we don't do a mitzvah out of an aveira. So in this case, whatever, go find a different kiddush, or don't hear kiddush, but you can't be you can't transgress a prohibition here. So you didn't wash yet, so you're not part of his hamaitzi. If you're not part of his hamaitzi, you can't be yaitz from his kiddush, because now you'd be changing around the order by doing first kiddush hayom and then hamaitzi. Anyway, what is it? Sleek, the Celtic Bay. What is it? If something is if you base or which if we just finished. I'll text you which we just finished, so remember. Yeah, we just finished your base, and Emir Hashem, we will continue when we are able, whether it's a Sunday or Monday. Hopefully, ideally, sometime Sunday, we can find some time to continue to put time in.
Forget about me.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. Yeah. What were you saying?
I said, don't forget about. Let me know about Sunday.
Absolutely. Absolutely, we will send an alert to the executive production team, and everybody have a good Shabbos, and may we enter this Shabbos entering into the Yom Shekuli Shabbos, the day that is all Shabbos, and it should be already Kiddush Nishalayim HaKiddush with a built Beis HaMikdash and with Mashiach Tzidkenu. Take it, God, mamish. Now I wish I had that shot glass of yours, Yehuda Leib. I could have made a l'chaim with that. Okay, good Shabbos, everybody, and the Mitzvah Hashem will aim for Sunday.